Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for tuning in. We are back from our summer break and with new energy for the last month of 2020. Our topic for today is Startup meets Corporate, Mutual Benefits Ahead. In this session, you'll learn why and how it pays off to put time and effort into a cooperation between startups and corporates. I'm very excited that I have these two guests with me today, Philippe Souidi from SAP and Heiko from TechFounders. So Philippe is currently heading the SAP IO Foundry Munich, which is part of the global network of startup accelerators by SAP. Through the Foundry, Philippe is empowering startups to deliver new value to SAP's customers, while also building a compelling ecosystem around SAP and customer experience solutions. We're very happy and proud that SAP is a very strong partner of UnternehmerTUM, and we have a strong and long-standing collaboration with the Foundry. With over 16 years of diverse experience, Philippe specializes in all aspects of digital transformation, strategy creation, and product development from ideation to launch. And prior to his current role, Philippe headed the innovation programs as part of the SAP Innovation Office. So welcome, Philippe.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Heiko, and Heiko Huber is managing partner at TechFounders. So together, we're managing the different accelerator programs at UnternehmerTUM. TechFounders is a 20-week startup accelerator program that initiates pilot projects between startups and corporates, provides individual coachings and mentorings to the startups, and helps them to prepare for the scaling phase and the next investment round. Heiko is a mechanical engineer by education and started his entrepreneurial experience in 2009 by co-founding the fitness company eGym. He then took the German conservative career path, as he likes to describe it, and left the successful startup to finish his studies, got his MBA, worked for McKinsey, and finally found his way back into the startup ecosystem by joining Siemens Venture Capital Unit Next 47. Now at TechFounders, he enjoys working at the interface between young, highly innovative companies and established corporates. From my own experience with Philippe and Heiko, I know they're absolute rock stars in setting up collaboration between startups and corporates, and also in helping startups to get to the next level. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with them via their LinkedIn profiles, which you can find next to the video. So let's start with the first question to you, Philippe. So why does SAP work with startups? So what does SAP hope to get out of working together with startups?
Yeah, good question. So at SAP, we focus completely on our customers. And for our customers, we innovate. And as you already said, my previous job was heading the innovation programs at Customer Experience. And there we went into depth how we can accelerate innovation. How can we accelerate innovation in the technical teams? How can we accelerate innovation with our customers? And one puzzle piece to really innovate is working with startups. Because for us, startups are like a very agile, fast, small teams who focus on something, on a specific topic. And as you are using the word, they're rock stars in that topic. And that's the reason why we collaborate with them, because we want to bring those rock stars to our customers to give them the best innovation possible.
Okay, so our topic for today is talking about the mutual benefits, or benefits for both sides. Why is it beneficial for startups to work with corporates, especially at a very early stage? Maybe Heiko, you can answer to that.
It's a great question. Some people think it's just about making some cash, but that's definitely not the case. So the big chance for startups, especially for B2B startups in the early stage, to work with a corporate is to find the right use case for the solution and to get feedback on the use case, to adapt their solution, and maybe also get some data. That's not only crucial to further develop your startup's idea and product, but it's also crucial to convince your seed or Series A investor. So if you're not a healthcare or moonshot startup, you definitely need some traction. Traction in that phase means first revenues, and first pilot customers, ideally pilot customers that decide to continue working with you.
Okay. From my own experience, I know cooperations between startups and corporates are not always easy. Can you share with our viewers some of the challenges that you typically encounter and how you also help to overcome these challenges with the programs that you're running? Maybe Philippe, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So the real question is, what's the motivation of the startup? And then you can see where the challenges are. So the startup comes to our Foundry, to the SAP IO Foundry Munich, to meet customers. That's the overall goal, right? And to do so, the enterprise business is definitely different than the consumer business. And where we can help is really prepare them for this business. So the currency, why they come, is access to our customers. Right? So on the other side, of course, as we already said, is startups are really agile, fast, and corporates are more on long-term thought, are more on security and things. So it can be that we are a little bit slower than the startups in certain items. On the other side, we are really fast for accessing customers because we have the customer base. Right? So maybe there are processes which are slower, but on the other side, we have speed in accessing our customers. So these are the pros and cons of it, I believe.
Okay. Heiko, from your experience?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Philippe just said. Maybe let me give you some more context. So I think we agree that corporates and startups are quite different organizations. Corporates have established business models. They've optimized their operations, and typically they can lose more than they can win if they move too fast. And startups, on the other hand, they have nothing to lose. They have to move fast. They have a very different timeline, like Philippe just described. They think in days and weeks instead of months and years. And the founders are typically incentivized by increasing the value of the company, and most of the founders have never worked for a corporate. So there's a big lack, and vice versa, by the way. So most corporate people have never worked for a startup. They may have friends that work in a startup. So there's a big lack of mutual understanding, and that brings all the challenges. Beside that, for a collaboration project, many things have to come together. It's not enough if you just work in the same industry. There has to be a technological fit. There has to be a fit in the mid and long-term vision. There has to be a fit between the personalities that are engaged in the program. And of course, there have to be enough resources on the startup side, but especially also on the corporate side. So these are just a few challenges. So I sometimes say it's a miracle if both sides find together. So some success factors, of course, is to have a big portfolio of startups that you can look at if you want to set up a pilot project. So definitely don't just start with the first startup you come across or the nearest startup. Find the right startup first. Engage all stakeholders from your corporation, not just the specialist department, but also agree maybe with the strategy department, with the VC unit, that there is a chance, at least, if the project is successful, that you continue. As described, very different organization, very different goals. So it's very important that both sides are very transparent about what they want to achieve in the pilot project. And last but not least, of course, make sure there are enough resources.
Completely agree, Heiko. So I think the core here to succeed is expectation management. So the startup needs to know why they come in and what their goal is. And the corporate needs to know what they do with the startups, right? In our Foundry in Munich, it's really, we have two goals. So our current goal really is that the startup becomes a partner, and that we can go with that partner to our customers and enhance our products. And the second goal in our current cohort is on fan and stadium experience. SAP is building an arena a sports arena, multi-sports arena in Munich called SAP Garden together with FC Bayern and Red Bull. And there we're looking really for startups who can improve the fan experience in that stadium. So we have a specific objective to improve the fan experience. So expectations are clear, are defined, and also we define if something is successful or not.
Okay. Heiko, you elaborated a little bit on the challenges and success factors of a cooperation between a startup and a corporate. How does TechFounders help to bridge these differences, or how can accelerator programs in general also help set up corporations for success?
Yeah, so actually we have developed a pretty proven process that lasts almost 5 months, from the definition of the search fields, including everyone in the corporation that might be important to decide if the project goes on, to really scouting globally or in the defined geography to find as many startups as possible, to really, once you have picked a startup, we have standard process how to define the project plan. We force both sides to be transparent. We act as a middleman if one of the sides struggles or if there are any barriers. So we moderate, that sometimes helps. And in the end, as in the SAP Foundry, also in TechFounders, it's very clear what both sides have to expect. It's very clear when the program starts, so no delays, not 6 or 12 months waiting for a startup. It's clear when the project has to be finished. Financing is clear, and I think that brings most of the value to the programs.
Yeah, understandable. Philippe, maybe another question for you. If I'm a startup and now I want to work with a corporate, or I'm a B2B startup, so I also need corporates as customers, at which point would you say are startups actually ready to work with a corporate? How can they become ready?
Yeah, so I think Heiko already mentioned that there are accelerators who support early stage startups. We as SAP Foundries, we have a specific objective, right? We want to bring those startups to the customers. So for us, the definition is pretty precise. So we need only startups who have at least 10 customers. Right? Why 10 customers? Because they haven't sold just to, you know, the grandmother, uncle, and someone. They really sold to customers and got feedback from the customers. The product needs to be ready. So the product is ready and was proven in the market. And there we can help them. We help them even really a lot, especially with our knowledge about enterprise sales. Our salespeople support them, how to present the startup, how to price the product, right? All these topics we can really help those startups. And therefore we focus on startups who are already a little bit further, who are around Series A financing, who want to go the next step. So what's your experience, Heiko?
So in the TechFounders program, it's a little slightly different, as it's not mainly about scaling, like in your program. But of course, there are some criteria that have to be fulfilled. First of all, we need a team. We do not accept single founders. The chances that they are accessible are just way lower. They have to have a legal entity. Sometimes we receive applications, people say, I have an idea, I'm about to found a company. That's not enough. We're working with corporates. It's also important from a legal point of view. But furthermore, corporations have stopped just playing around with startups. They are doing serious things, and you need at least a working prototype, functional prototype, and it has to be very clear which value you can bring in the 5 months. Or at least there has to be a strong hypothesis. And of course, you need the resources. Doesn't make sense if you work part-time for the company and you have a freelancer. So there should be a team in place. Typically, startups have already raised some money from business angels or maybe family and friends to manage all that. But make sure you have at least these few criteria in place before you look out for cooperation partners with TechFounders.
So Heiko, before TechFounders, you've also been involved in different accelerator programs in the US. Did you experience any difference in how corporates and startups work together on the other side of the Atlantic?
That's actually a very interesting question. I had thought about that before, because in general, the approach is quite similar, and sometimes it's even the same providers that offer these programs. But what I have experienced while I was mentoring in the US in some of these programs is that it's way more normal for corporates to engage with startups and to engage with other players in the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So from my experience, the barrier to start a collaboration project is way lower. Doesn't necessarily mean that the projects are more successful, but it's much easier to start something, to try something out, learn, and that's something I really hope that will also be the case in Germany soon. Yeah, I mean, we're working with organizations and partners that are very open-minded. I think these are good examples, but in the average, and the German companies, established companies, are still too hesitant, too cautious when talking about startup collaborations.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Philippe, what do you see when talking to your colleagues who run the different accelerators of SAP? Do you see any differences there in how they work with startups or how they set up collaborations between corporates?
Yeah, so I think SAP has a special approach, right? Because we have 9 foundries globally from Tokyo to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And we run those accelerators pretty similar. Why? Because we have also global customers. So if we have startups from Munich, right, we are presenting them to customers in the US or in Asia, right? So for example, giving an example from a cohort before, PostLab, a great startup from Munich, they present in Dubai, right, in front of our customers. So we don't limit, our limits are not at borders, right? So we immediately, the program is similar globally. Of course, we adapt it to cultural differences, but at the same time, those startups go to our global customers.
Okay. And Philippe, you talked about the new cohort, about the topic fan experience, and I'm sure you've screened hundreds of applications to find the right startups for that cohort. How can you tell if a startup is promising, or also how can you tell if it's the right fit for the cohort, the topic for SAP?
Yeah, so first of all, we work together with UnternehmerTUM. So it's Heiko and Heiko's team who support us very strongly in scouting those startups. Topic-wise, we really look what is the right topic, where do we have partners, customers to go in that topic. So we are also successful in presenting the startups our customers. That's number one. So we have the topic pretty strongly defined. Then we do an outreach. That's the team from Heiko with Florian. They reach out to up to 800 startups. Those 800 startups, from those 800 startups, around 130, 140 startups apply in our system. We have a specific system for that. And then we see the applications. And in these applications, we go to the special team. So we go and ask our technical guys, we ask our marketing people, our sales people to look at the startups and scan the startups. And accordingly to their knowledge, they rate those startups. And mostly at the end, we have around 50 startups, which are really interesting. And there we go into depth. There we do interviews with them, we call them, we find out how the teams are. And at the end, we have around 15 startups. And these 15 startups present in front of a selection committee, which is brought together by customers, partners, technical people, and then we choose those startups. And you know, the technology is important, the team is important, but for us working 3 months with these startups, it's also really the character of the founder. Who is the founder? How does he act? How is he? Is he punctual, right? Is he on time? These are very small parts of the whole process, but at the end, it has a huge effect in the daily work with the startups. And at the end, like now, we chose 8 startups out of 135.
I can just highlight what Philippe said in the end. It's so important, not just what kind of technology you have, what kind of investors. When you apply for accelerator program, or if you want to work with a corporate, the people that engage with you to have a good feeling that you're punctual, that you deliver, that you're reachable, super, super important. So if you're a startup, make sure to be reactive and do all that, what Philippe just said.
Maybe a question to both of you. What do you actually like most in working with startups or setting up a collaboration? What drives you?
Maybe I start with that one. I mean, it's more or less the reason why I'm active in that field. So you meet very interesting people that are very optimistic people, positive thinking people, people that do not complain about what it's not going to happen. They have big ideas, sometimes too big ideas, but they go after it. And I like to be surrounded with these kind of people. And it's the same at the corporates, not meeting the people that have stayed there for 30 years and tell you what will never work because they have tried it before. It's the opposite. And that's a very nice and positive environment. That's one of the reasons why I like to work there. That gives power to everyone in the ecosystem.
What about you, Philippe?
Yeah, well, I think in the current cohort, it's really, it's awesome because, for example, we build POCs together with our partners, Red Bull and FC Bayern and SAP. And that's really like the real focus of a startup is the customer, right? And how to deliver their solution and improve life of the customer. And that's also our objective, right? And paired with our knowledge and their speed and agility, it's always an awesome project going forward with these guys. So that's one of the reasons why I love working with these guys.
Yeah, maybe let me add one thing. So what helped me to decide for joining TechFounders was that I've experienced before that these collaboration projects can really be a win-win situation for both sides. And it really brings value for both, and I enjoy to see that. And yeah, that if you do it right, it really pays out.
So if I am a startup and want to work with a corporate, how and when can I apply? When is the next application phase opening, or when is my chance? Maybe Philippe, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, we have 9 foundries globally. And there are always new programs starting. So check out SAP.io, the website, and there you can see the different topics of the programs. For Munich, we will start our application phase in October for our next cohort, which will happen in February next year on the topic of sustainability. So it's carbon tracking, it will be circular economy, and these kind of topics. So around October and November we start, we will select startups globally. And next year, also for Munich, the fall cohort will be around the topic of new mobility.
Nice. What about you, Heiko?
Yes, TechFounders has also 2 batches per year, and applications phases typically open in February and in August. So you can always have a look at the website. You can also subscribe to an updated newsletter when the new search fields are online. And beside that, I would also like to mention the accelerator program that Miki is managing with the BMW Foundation called Respond, and there'll also be an application phase open beginning next year.
Well, thank you to both of you. We're already at the end of our talk. So if you're a startup and want to work with corporates, please check out the websites of the SAP.io Foundries. And of course, also the TechFounders website to apply to one of the programs and to see when the next phase is opening. If you're a corporate, of course, interested in working with startups, please get in touch with Heiko to learn more about how we can help you with that. And of course, also, if you have specific questions to Philippe or Heiko, please feel free to contact them via their LinkedIn profiles. Thank you everyone for watching. It was a pleasure to host this U-Talk with you, Philippe and Heiko, and for sharing your experiences with us.
Thanks for the invitation, Miki.
Thank you, Miki. Thank you, Heiko.
So we will be back on October 6th at 4 p.m. with our guest from the Hörmann Gruppe, so Anna Hörmann, Head of Strategic Development, Alexander Hauswald, Head of Digital Strategy. We'll talk to Christian Mohr, our Managing Partner of UnternehmerTUM Business Creators, about strategies on how to digitize the German Mittelstand. This talk will be followed with another one on October 8th, where we will talk about digitization again, but from a different perspective. The Bavarian State Minister for Digital Affairs, Judith Gerlach, will speak with Christian Mohr about changes and challenges from the political point of view. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you for tuning in, and see you then.